tight end room?
Yeah, we went from last year not being really sure who our tight end was going to be, and we had a freshman come in, and Zeke Moore, who did a really nice job of starting as a freshman. Obviously, there were some struggles because of being a freshman, getting used to college football, and then the room really, Wyatt Sullivan's a guy that had transitioned from wide receiver to tight end. Khalil Brantley had come in from the University of Miami, and then Elijah Brown had come in from the University of Alabama. And you kind of saw that group last year kind of come together a little bit. But really, this offseason, I think Zeke kind of set the tempo with what he did last year. Wyatt, the other one that really just, took the bull by the horn and was like, hey, this is going to be my year. And you saw that room really become competitive. Khalil Brantley had a really good offseason. He's kind of been set back a little bit by his latest injury, but we expect him back fairly soon. And then Elijah had, come from Alabama, had redshirted, hadn't had a lot of experience. We threw him in a little bit last year, but he didn't get a whole lot of time. So that spring was really big for him. And I think what we kind of found out was we got a room, 4 guys that could be a starter at any moment. And they have really competed really hard so far in this training camp. And they're making it hard to see who's going to be the primary tight end. But also, too, because we do have these multiple guys, you might see that we're able to play more tight ends at one time instead of just one tight end on the field. So very excited about the room. We've got a young guy named Cam Bell who came in late summer. Obviously, I think he's going to have to progress a little bit more. He's going to have to get stronger, bigger, learn the offense. But I think he does have tools that can help us. But very excited about it. They're a workman-like group, and they've really taken it to a new level from last year to this year.
Coach Herman praised both you and Coach Fry for the ability to get the right personnel to do the right things. Has that been fun to play with that style of offense where you can use the tight ends in multiple different ways?
Absolutely. I believe that a tight end room, when you look at them, they should look different. You got White and you got Elijah, who are maybe the taller, more weight guys. And then you got Khalil, Brantley, and Zeke, who maybe look more like the fullback, H-back guys. And what that allows us to do to be able to get into different personnels, but still be able to run our offense. And, being able to have those different pieces in the room really helps you be multiple on offense.
Okay, so we'll flip the page to your other hat. A few years ago, I think Nick Marino was the only one who had game experience, and it doesn't seem that long ago that we were looking to him to guide that room, which is tough because a lot of times they're working on their own. Have you seen that flip, and now you've got multiple guys with game experience and know that they're doing the things that they need to do during practice?
Absolutely. Sometimes it's a blessing and a curse. When you have guys that come in and, maybe you only have one experienced guy or whatever, you can kind of go, okay, hey, this is who our kicker is going to be. This is who our punter is going to be. This is going to be who our snapper is going to be. What I really like about this group is they're very competitive, and they make it hard on Coach Herman, myself, and anybody else that's evaluating it. They make it very hard on us to, who's going to be the guy because of the experience. When you start talking about like the punting battle between Lupo and Salmon, the whole thing, Lupo has experience. Really trust him in games because we've seen him in games. But then you watch Nick, who goes out, works every day, is really competing hard to be that guy and wants to be that guy. And then that drives Lupo to be better. And I think the same thing's happening at place kicker too, because Suarez has been a guy for us that has got that in-game experience. Carter Davis has gotten a little bit of in-game experience with field goals, but definitely with kickoffs. And then you bring a young guy in like Robert Hammond, who has talent, still needs to develop a little bit, but you give him a chance to compete. And then the great thing about Lupo is he is a dual guy, and he has an opportunity to compete at punter and field goal. So when I say it's a blessing and a curse, the blessing is we've got guys that can come out and compete and be the guy. where it's a curse is you got to find a way to be able to get them all looked at. And so we're trying to be very creative about that and make sure they all get an opportunity to be seen so we can choose the best guy for our team.
And then your return game, you lost a really good punt returner, but it looks like with the transfer portal, you've got some guys that can come in and pick up all that slack as if you lost nothing.
Yeah.
How's that looking?
Well, obviously losing a good punt return like we did, I mean, we ended up being, I believe, top 5 in the country in punt return, and a lot of that had to do with the punt returner, but it also had a lot to do with those other 10 that were out on the field. And what I'll say is from, spring practice till now, I think we're further along in our technique and fundamentals in each of our phases. So I think we've got some talented punt returners back there. It is an open competition. We've got Milan Tucker, we got Phil Lord, we got Platt. We've got guys that are back there that can make things happen. But I really feel like where we are as a team and how we've worked with our technique and fundamentals, as long as we can trust the guy back there, I think we can have a really good punt return.
How about kick return?
Kick return, getting Milan Tucker, he had a tremendous career at App State as a kick returner. Obviously not going to crown him as the starting kick returner, but he obviously, because of what he's done in the past, that gives him that opportunity. And, he's dynamic in that area. And I'm excited again about, with our scheme on the kickoff return, we can make sure that we got the right matchups to make sure that we can get the kickoff return started. We want to be really smart because we know if we fair catch, we can have the ball on the 25-yard line. But when you have a guy like Milan or some of these other guys that can do a really good job at kick return, sometimes you're going to want to take chances because you want to be able to help your offense's field position.
My last question is, how's it feel to go through camp without having to wear a knee brace?
Well, it's nice. It's been, what's it been, 2 years now? I still don't run good, but I'm very thankful and blessed to have two legs, 2 feet, and be able to get around much better than I did a couple of years ago. So very blessed for that.
Rick?
All right, I'll try to go rapid round here. 2 straight days of pads. I saw you out there getting fired up quite a bit. What's your thoughts on the 2 days collectively for your units and just in general? What are your thoughts? Because you're a former head coach, you see a lot of things. So I'm curious to see what you saw.
Yeah, what I do see is I see a lot of guys being intentional, and so let me back up a little bit. Yes, we went full pads the last 2 days, but what I've seen from the start, because you can tell a lot about your team when you first put them in helmets and then you move to shoulder pads and then you move to full pads. And I thought that the guys, as a whole have been very intentional to get, and especially like with Coach Herman's schedule of, hey, we're going to go a couple days in pads and then we're going to go in helmets and we're going to have that kind of that up and down that Morgan was talking about of getting our bodies ready. I've been excited about watching our guys handle that. So if we're in helmets, those guys are intentional. If we're in shoulder pads and no lowers, they're intentional. And then when we put the full pads on, the physicality went up even more because we were able to be live. So I think big picture, I see a mature football team. Now we got a long ways to go, but I see a mature football team than we had last year. Because they're handling what each dress of the day is and how that should look. As far as my unit goes, I think they have done a really good job of, from last year to this year, becoming a more physical group. They're out there competing. They're wanting to try to be the ones that set the tone. So excited about that tight end group and the physicality they're bringing.
If you had to say, in contrast to last year's camp, this has been a surprise. Is there something?
Yeah, I think when you ask me that, I mean, the first thing that pops in my head is how new our team is because of the transition piece. We were a different football team than we are now, and I don't know the correct number, so I may be wrong, but I think it's over 40% different roster.
Yeah, at least 35.
And, I think the thing that really surprises me or, kind of makes me go, wow, this new age of college football, how the new guys came in and bought in to the vision. There's always a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Herman's plan, the coaches are bought in. What I really love is all these new guys coming in and the players being bought in. You hear them talking the same language as our staff and as our head coach. They're relaying that. And I think that's the biggest surprise is how quick that came together, because this transfer portal world, I didn't know if it'd be that way or not.
Okay, now I'm going to go wrap around on the guys, and they're here, so be careful.
I'm good at lying.
Quick hits on Logan Lupo.
I love Logan's experience. I love his work ethic. I love his competitiveness. He is, I couldn't say he's a joy to coach because he's competitive. He's going to be fired up. He's going to be, I like that. I don't mean that in a wrong way that he's a joy to coach. Like we have to manage egos in our room.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has an ego in a good way. I think he feels like he's really good at what he does, punt and kicking. And he tries to show that and bring that every day. So definitely excited to be able to coach him.
And for Morgan.
Morgan, I think the first thing that pops in my head is, and again, you're only as good as your next kick, but I see him being very consistent. I think he stays very even. I don't see him up and down with his emotions or anything like that. I think he's gone through a lot of adversity throughout his career that's kind of lent to that. So I love seeing that part of Morgan. He's the same guy every day.
He's resilient and consistent.
Absolutely.
Fair? Okay, and last, Nick.
Other than I can't understand a word he says, he's a tremendously hard worker. I'm just kidding around. He's I can understand a little bit. He's a really hard worker. He wants to be the starting punter. Like he's doing a great job holding. He wants to be the starting punter. He's doing everything he can. He's pushing Lupo. Lupo's pushing him. Sometimes I think, when I start talking about Lupo, I talk about Suarez. When I think about Nick, I think about a guy that I might have to say, whoa, man, you got to slow down a little bit. You're kicking way too much. You're punting way too much. Because he is out there every single day trying to get better. And I would rather say whoa than go, no question. But he's brought a different energy to it this year. I think last year was more of that transition year, get used to American football. This spring he looked much better, and he's had a good camp so far. And so really excited to look see how this unfolds.
My last question, piggybacking off what she said. Two things I've noticed in this camp. Number one, the buy-in. Everybody talks about buy-in. Everybody's on the same page. It's good to see. Refreshing attitude. And then depth and continuity in the individual rooms. As she mentioned, your unit, special teams, with the exception of the returners, you're back with everybody. How does that make you feel as a coach, knowing that you have those tools that are all experienced?
Feels great. It's a lot more fun to coach when you have guys that kind of already know what the standard and expectation is. I think the big challenge when you have a group like that is you have to be very mindful of complacency, because when you have a group that's experienced, sometimes you may let little things slide, and I have to be very conscious as a coach myself to make sure, even if I've said it 1 million times, I've got to say it 1,000,001 times. And them as players, just because they've done it 1 million times, they need to do it 1,000,001 times. And we have to be very mindful of not getting complacent when we have that experience.
Excellent. I appreciate you.
All right, go out.
Thank you. You talk